Hello. So in this video, I'm going to talk about mudlarking um, and my experience and something that I have found mudlarking, which is incredibly exciting. So the story starts with this book by Lara Makelum called Mudlarking Lost and Found on the River Thames, which is a fantastic book. I strongly recommend it. And I read this book about mudlarking and it got me really interested in the idea and going along and doing some mudlarking. So mudlarking is going along the riverbanks and looking for things of value, of historical interest, particularly on the River Thames, because obviously the Thames is such a kind of treasure trove of history. There's lots there. So you officially need to get a permit, a license to do this. So I got a license and I went along. I'm going to show you a few things that I found. When you first go there and you walk, and obviously you need to look at the tide times because the Thames is tidal. So you work out when the best time to go is when the Thames is low, and you're walking along the banks of the river, and it takes a little bit of time for your eyes to get used to it because there's lots of stones and shells and bones as well, and there's lots of old pottery like this. So you find lots of this old pottery. And the first thing that I came across, lots of these, which is really interesting, are these kind of old clay pipes. So the clay pipes may have been obviously they used to smoke tobacco, so the earliest possible time would be kind of the Tudor period, probably slightly after that, maybe into the Stuart period or Georgian period. And I found this one with a little bit of the head still on it. And in this book, it talks about how these clay pipes, there's so many of them because they were often just single use. And so they'd be pre-filled with tobacco, and then people would use them and then just throw them away. And here you can see lots of pictures of different clay pipes. And I haven't found one fully intact. I'd love to find that, but I have found this head which is kind of intact, and it's got some interesting kind of like little detail on the side there. So that's quite interesting. Just the head of a clay pipe that might be, this what I'm holding. These different clay pipes could be 300, 400 years old. So quite incredible. But the item that I'm most excited by is this very small thing. So I'm just going to show it to the camera here. See if you can see that. Okay, and see if you can work out what it might be. Okay, so this is very small. It's very light, and it's got six sides, and it's got different kind of like these spiral numbers on each side. So it's a dice. It's a die, and it's made of bone. So it's not stone. It's not kind of dark glass or anything like that. It's made of bone. So it's a bone die with these kind of spiral inscriptions on it. And I saw it on my first trip mudlarking, actually. I just saw it there in the mud, and it kind of stood out because obviously it's square shaped, so it stood out from the stones. And I took it home and cleaned it, and I sent a photo to the Museum of London, and they actually confirmed that it's a Roman to late medieval die, bone die. And in the Museum of London, they have one of these that's pretty much exactly the same. So it's quite incredible to think that this die might be 2,000 years old. And just thinking about the story of how this got to be on the banks of the River Thames. Had somebody gambled and lost and then kind of tossed it aside in anger and frustration? Or was somebody on a boat, they'd had a few too many glasses of wine and they tripped and stumbled and it fell from their pocket into the river? So this is my most exciting find. I still can't quite believe that I found this. So I really would strongly recommend this book, Mudlarking. If you can't get to the Thames and have a go yourself, I'd recommend reading this book. It's a really great read. I'd be really interested to hear if anybody's been mudlarking and if you've found anything interesting, or if you find anything of historical interest just generally. But I thought I'd share the story because I feel like it's it's an interesting story, and I wanted to share my exciting Roman dice with the world. There we go. Thanks.